Wow, wow, wow. The rumors are officially, well, not officially, but pretty much officially true about the Galaxy Z Fold 7. It is bigger and awesome. This is exactly what I've been waiting for years, and we are finally getting it. Galaxy Z Fold 7 CAD leaks have come out. These are some basically official renders. They're not official, but the design of it and then redesigned into the renders that you guys can see of what this phone is going to look like. And I said it's going to be huge and massive, and I am, oh, dude, finally. And it's gonna have One UI 7, obviously, the newest version of that. But what else is it going to have? So first of all, the design, it's thinner than the previous model. It's 4.5 millimeters unfolded and 9.5 millimeters folded. The previous version, unfolded, was 5.6, so much thinner than even the Galaxy Z Fold 6. It's not the thinnest foldable on the market though, not a huge deal to me, but just something to know. Displays, this is where it is massive, bigger than I thought. 8.2 inches on that inner display, 6.5 inches on the outer display. And again, so looking forward to that. It's like the biggest thing for me is having bigger displays on the outside and the inside of a Samsung Galaxy phone. That's a Z Fold phone. Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, but it possibly might be the 7-core version for better thermals. Now, we've seen this most likely happening on their S25 Edge phone, which is their really slim phone, and this phone is super slim as well. So when you compare the benchmarks of, say, like an S25, 25 Plus, or 25 Ultra to this phone, it's not going to be there. Those phones are going to outperform the Z Fold 7, possibly by thousands of points. Now, will you see it in day-to-day usage? Probably not, but just know that to keep the thermals intact and not to have this phone overheat, they're gonna most likely, as you can see, probably go down and remove or disable one of the cores in the processor so this thing stays cool and performs at its best. Battery capacity is looking like it's staying the same, 4,400 milliamps, which is, that's one of the problems I have with the Z Fold phones, is that the battery life is just not that great. The new processors, the 8 Elite, do have and give better battery life than the previous generation, so you might get a little bit better battery life, but it's not gonna be massive. And to have such a large phone, and it's thin, that's great, but to have such a large phone with a small battery, that's one of the disappointments in this so far. Expected battery life improvements due to processor efficiency, which I just said. Cameras, 200 megapixel primary sensor. Oh my God. Again, freaking huge 2 thumbs up. That is amazing. That is awesome. 12 megapixel ultra wide. I'd like to see the 50 in there, just like you get on the S25 Ultra, but whatever. 10 megapixel telephoto cameras, 10 megapixel selfie cameras on the front display, 4 megapixel under display camera on the inner display. It looks like they're keeping the cameras basically the same, except for that main sensor, which that's the one I use the most, but it still would have been nice to have them upgrade the front display camera, the under display camera, and the ultra wide, but whatever. It looks like probably as well, I would expect anyway, maybe I might be wrong on this, but maybe we'll see more zooming in instead of the 30x, maybe we'll see 100x zoom come to this phone. The launch is expected in mid July 2025, and then obviously the launch of the phone would come at the end of July or early August. And wow, that's all I can say is wow. It's like, you know, is it the, would I have traded in something as thin to get more battery life? Yes, definitely. And at that point, you could probably be fine throwing in the bigger cameras as well. But other than that, like what I see, I wanted a bigger screen. That's one thing I've wanted. I've wanted a better main sensor camera. They're giving us that. And then obviously I want more battery life. They're not giving us that. So 2 out of 3 isn't bad. But you know, where do we draw the line where these phones just get so thin and the batteries either get smaller or the batteries just keep staying the same, and we are left with very similar battery life? Even if it's a little bit better, it's still basically the same maybe. So I guess we'll wait and see. Maybe it'll be drastically different, drastically better, which would be great. But otherwise, this is amazing news. I'm very excited. We're gonna start it off with One UI 7. Galaxy Z Fold 6 and Flip 6 have a beta of One UI 7 sitting on some test servers in Europe and in India, again, for the Flip 6 and Fold 6. This sounds like the One UI 7 beta program for the Z Fold 6 and Flip 6 is just around the corner, and it would probably end up being in parts of Europe, parts of, well, I guess India, United States, Korea. They usually don't do it like everywhere, but yeah, this should be, the rumors are March is when the beta is going to launch, so we are literally a week away from March coming up to us, and hopefully it'll be very soon into March when we can get the beta. And when we do, I am going to install it and get it ready for my phone. I'm very much looking forward to the One UI 7 beta on my Galaxy Z Fold 6. Max Jamber put out a tweet talking about the Samsung Tri-Fold and the launch alongside the Fold 7 and Flip 7, saying that it will be unveiled at a later point in time. He doesn't go into specifics when, but that's kind of what we've been hearing. The latest rumors I've been talking about and I've been getting from other people is that the Galaxy G Fold, their Tri-Fold phone, will be released towards the end of the year, probably September, October, somewhere in that time frame. And when it is released, we don't even know if it's going to be a worldwide release or just Korea and China or, you know, more countries or what. We don't know price. We don't know a lot about it. But what we do know in terms of those things is that it's definitely going to be sounding like more towards the end of the year, which is still exciting because we have so many devices coming up with the Flip 7 and the Fold 7. Pixel will have their phones, new iPhones. It's just crazy what the amount of devices that are still to come out later this year. Potentially, this is what the Galaxy Z Fold 7 will look like with that new 8.2-inch display, added with some, you know, colors on here, a little image on here, with some very thin bezels. And it's just a device that's going to impact the total future of this line. You know, now we're finally, you know, 6 generations in, that it's changed very little in terms of the design, in terms of size-wise. This is really a huge change from what they've done in the past. It's really going to make a pretty large impact. And then here's another one. Now, I think with this one, it looks wider, and I'm thinking that the image that he's looking at is more of like it being rotated, so that's why it looks wider maybe than usual. But again, think about, you know, 2 windows sitting on there, much wider, much more easy to see. And you can still see the windows when they're multitasked on a Z Fold 6, but when you get more screen real estate, being able to multitask with 2, 3, up to, you know, 4, 5, 6 windows is going to be a lot nicer. I wouldn't probably go up more than 4, but I think the sweet spot's obviously 2 or 3, but it's still just a great canvas to play on for gaming, for social media, for multitasking, for work, all of that. Again, I've said multiple times, the major reason that I would be looking into this would be the camera, the 200 megapixel camera, and that huge, much bigger display. Talking about One UI 7 to start the show off, and One UI 7 for other devices outside of the S25. We're talking S24, Z Fold 6, Fold 6, Flip 5, like the laundry list of phones that are going to get it and when they're going to get it. So here we go. There was a list that leaked out from somebody that was having a meeting with Samsung, and he had a plethora of phones, as you can see here, when the release dates will happen. So April 18th for the S24 phones, the Z Fold 6 and Flip 6 would be, now that should be like the official release date. Doesn't mean like that's when they're going to get the beta. So we should still be getting the betas in March for the Fold 6 and Flip 6. And then for the April 25th, you're looking at the S23s, the Fold 5, Flip 5, A54. May 16th, again, the S23 Fan Edition, S22 phones, Fold 4, Flip 4, a couple of A phones. And then on May 23rd, you're looking at the Fold 3 and Flip 3. So if you're, you know, waiting patiently for One UI 7, you're gonna have to wait just a little bit longer for these phones to come out and launch with this software. But at least potentially we have a release date for these now. Next up is all about the Galaxy Z Flip 7. Now, it's gonna have a new design to it. So, and here's the reported specs for it: 3.6-inch a cover display, which is a little bit larger. The last one was 3.4 inches, slightly larger inner display, 6.8 inches versus 6.7 on the previous generation, slightly larger overall with the body, which is different because usually they've been going thinner and lighter and all that stuff, but it looks like it's going to be basically about the same, if not a little bit larger. Cameras, dual camera setup with a 50 megapixel primary and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. Likely upgraded sensors on the cameras in general, even though they're basically the same. Unconfirmed reports of either an Exynos 2500 or a Snapdragon. There's been reports, again, with that. So if it's a Snapdragon, it's obviously going to be the 8 Elite. And if it is the 8 Elite, I would assume it's probably going to be only 7 cores instead of 8 cores, especially if they do that with the Fold 7, as reports are saying. 12 gigs of RAM like they had last year, and 256 and 512 gigs of storage. And here's what it looks like. It is a kind of a boxy design. I actually feel like it looks pretty premium. And I like the design, and I would be very interested if I was a huge flip guy with that newer, bigger, larger cover display, and obviously the increased 6.8 inches over the 6.7 on the main display. But I think they did the design well. It looks premium. Not that it didn't before, but I think it even looks maybe even more premium now with this boxy type design. And this should be available again at launch in July and release either the end of July or sometime in early August, and that's what we're looking at. Same price as well, no price increase over that, so pretty nice stuff. We're going to start it off with the Galaxy S25 phone because the update, the very first update has rolled out to this phone in America. I got mine today, or maybe yesterday, but I noticed it today. It's a 600 meg update. A lot of the other world has already got this update. It looks like it's more of just a security update. It doesn't seem like it added any features, and maybe it fixed a bug or two, but basically it's just saying it's mostly a security update. So check for your updates on your S25 phones, 25, 25 Plus, 25 Ultra. I have the unlocked version, but carrier versions I would assume would probably be there now or very, very soon, but the unlocked version is definitely there, so go and grab it for your phone. Our next story has to do with the Galaxy S25 Edge. We keep hearing like, hey, it's coming out soon or it's not going to, and it looks like the latest is saying that it will be coming out very, very soon, and it's gonna launch basically next month. Here's the report. Samsung's to unveil Galaxy S25 Edge on April 16th. Now we're basically in March, that's why I said next month. According to reports to the Korean media, Samsung's mobile experience division has set the unveiling date for the S25 Edge on April 16th. It is expected that the S25 Edge will be available for purchase starting in May. So that's right. So launch the 16th of April and then be for sale in May. So you'd expect maybe 2 weeks later, like first week of May probably. The month following Unpacked event, the device will come in 3 colors: light blue, black, and silver, with an initial production run of approximately 40,000 units. The price is anticipated to be higher than that of the S25 Vanilla, but lower than the Ultra. So probably priced around the Plus version is my guess. And remember, the details of this phone, what it's supposed to be in terms of specs, to what we think we know is Snapdragon 8 Elite with UFS 4 storage, 200 megapixel camera for the main sensor, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and then 12 megapixels as well. Ceramic black metal frame, Android 15 One UI 7, 120 hertz flat AMOLED display, 4,000 milliamp battery, 25 watt charging, and IP68. I'm still in that ballpark of like, man, should I get this, make some videos on it or not? That's kind of what I'm feeling about it, or not. I think I kind of have to, especially with it being the first generation. I don't necessarily need or want it per se, because I have the S25 Ultra and the Z Fold 6. I like, those are really like premium phones. This is premium phone too, but I don't know. It's interesting. It's super thin and it's light, and I think it's got I'm pretty sure based off the benchmarks, like I've mentioned, that it has a toned down Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, maybe with running probably only 6 or 7 cores out of the 8. We're going to talk about a new foldable patent that's coming out from Samsung. It's a tri-folding phone with integrated S Pen. This thing is gnarly looking with 2 hinges and everything. So let's check this out right now. Again, this is a patent. I don't expect this to be the tri-folding phone that is released later on this year, or is reportedly being released later on this year. Supposedly it's going to be maybe smaller than that tri-folding phone that's going to come out this year. So this would be a little bit more boxier, a little bit more smaller. But ultimately, you can see what it looks like. It's if it has double hinges, which maybe the new one has, I don't think it does, but if this one does, I mean, man, I'm a little worried this thing might break. But ultimately, the volume rockers and power button are present at the top portion of this phone, while the USB-C port is at the bottom edge of the device. And also you can see that it does support S Pen, as you can see from the slot housing for the same patent that we're looking at. And the inclusion of the S Pen hints that the device could be a tablet rather than a phone, but again, it could also be a new folding phone with S Pen support. And it's got elongated oval-shaped module on the rear, which could be for the camera sensors, and it's just a really interesting looking device. It could be a smaller device. It's kind of hard to tell. It kind of looks boxy and more compact, but then again, it could be just the way we're looking at this, and it could ultimately be a device that is their new foldable tablet, which I think about something like that. And I'm like, if you're coming out with a tri-folding phone and then you're coming out with a tri-folding tablet, don't those two things kind of block each other? And I say that because the tri-folding phone is gonna be, at least the one that's supposed to be coming out, basically 10 inches in display. That's a tablet. And what is this gonna be? Is it gonna be smaller than that? Is it gonna be bigger? And if it is not bigger than 10 inches, you can't make it a tablet. It's gonna be a phone. So it would have to be, I would guess, like, I don't know, 11, 12, 13 inches. Is that too big to put in your pocket because it's so thick? Is it going to be reliable? Like, it's very interesting. And do we even need tri-folding tablets? Maybe just a one-time folding tablet would be fine. It's very interesting. This technology is going to grow really, really quickly, I would assume, with more and more companies coming out with these types of devices. At first, there was only, one or two folding companies. Now we have a quote-unquote handful, if you count the Chinese companies and the 2 or 3 American companies, or 2 or 3 Western type companies that are putting out phones with it. Tri-folding phones, I expect the same thing. I don't think everyone's going to do it, but I think enough will do it so that there'll be some competition, and it'll be quite interesting over the next 1, 2, 3 years as more and more of these devices do come out. What are the downsides of having the Oppo Find N5 so thin? And this will probably carry over to almost any phone that is really, really super thin. And let's get right into it. The first one being, this has a Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, but it doesn't cover all 8 cores. It only covers 7 of the cores. So the benchmark scores that you're gonna get are gonna be a couple thousand points less than what they could have been, 1,000 to 2,000 points less. And not to say this is a slow phone, it's not. It's super fast. It can play all the AAA games, but as time goes on and those games become more demanding, this phone is not going to age as well as the ones that have the full 8 cores in it. And the reason they can't put all 8 cores or have it run its top performance like the other phones could, like a regular slab phone, is because of the fact that it's going to run into thermal throttling, meaning it's going to be running really an intense project or a game or something like that, and things are just going to start to overheat on this, and it's going to become laggy and slow. So to me, that's a downside. I would want definitely this to be a little bit thicker so that I can get all the power and performance that was available. The next one is speakers. I compared this to the speakers on the OnePlus Open, which is a thicker phone. OnePlus Open has better, louder sounding speakers, all because this is so thin and they potentially can't put as good as a dynamic driver in there for audio as they could have if it was a thicker phone. And that's, again, to me, I would rather have better sound than having a super, super thin phone. It's important for me as a user to get the best experience on the phone. I don't necessarily need the thinnest phone. I want the best performance and I want amazing speakers. These speakers are good. They are not great. There are phones that are less expensive than this that have better speakers, that is for sure. Not a big deal to me, but I know some people are disappointed that it doesn't have any internal pen. Now, if this phone was thicker, you could fit a pen. And this phone is so thin, you just can't. It's literally as thick as a USB-C port, and it's just basically impossible probably to fit in a pen at that point. And it's nice if you're using any kind of pen on this, because this does have pen support if you have the right pen. And it would be great for that pen to be able to fit inside so you don't lose it. You don't have to carry it separately from the phone or get a case that holds it. It's just great when you can put a pen into the phone. And this phone's even thicker. This still don't have pens, obviously. Talking to you, Galaxy Z Fold phones, those phones are S Pen compatible, and they don't have, or they're thicker than this, and the pens still don't fit in. But yeah, definitely a factor in thinner phones that you'll never probably get a pen that'll fit inside. The other one is it could potentially be more brittle or bend easier. You've seen the really thin iPads and how those bend. This is, again, so thin that, you know, potentially if you just had a bad day with it and you bent it just a little bit, this thing could get crooked, it could get damaged. It feels pretty well built, don't get me wrong. But like I said in a previous video, one of my buddies, he has a Galaxy Z Fold 6 like me. He held this phone, he's like, man, it kind of feels like a toy in a way. Feels like I might break it. And that's something to say for that. I mean, again, it's really great engineering, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, to be concerned with something like that is a little bit dangerous. So, you know, it would have been nice, I guess, to have a little bit more thickness to this so that I didn't have to worry, is this gonna bend or not? And the last one being, they didn't put the best cameras in here. And to be fair, they usually don't on the folding phones, and it's mostly because they don't wanna make the phone really thick. But you can see, there is a camera bump, but these are 50 megapixel main cameras. Put in 200, match your other phones that are out there. Put the best cameras in here. We're paying top dollar for these phones, and this doesn't have the best cameras. Don't get me wrong, this takes good photos and good videos. I've captured them on previous videos on this device, but it is something to say again that it being so thin that they'll probably never be able to put that 200 megapixel camera in there because it's just gonna stick out so much. So those are some things to be concerned with and to know about, even though this phone's really cool and thin, that because of those factors, other things have been, I wouldn't call it neglected, but they've been, you know, downgraded. Galaxy S26 phones, we're gonna talk about those first because there's been rumors that the Ultra version of that phone is gonna have a change, such as an under display camera. We're getting a little bit more clarity on when and if that is going to happen. And the latest information from Panda Flash is that, as he's mentioned earlier, there is no chance of the under display camera in the Galaxy S26 Ultra. Now it's 100% confirmed. All the prototypes of the 26 Ultra still have the punch hole camera like the S25 Ultra and the 24 Ultra with the same size hole as the S25 Ultra. So that's great news. We're not gonna have to worry about an under display camera on that Galaxy S26 Ultra. Under display camera is terrible. They haven't improved that technology all that much, but I didn't expect it to happen anyway, but still, it's good to know that potentially we have 100% confirmation. The other bit of information is that they are testing out an all-new ultrasonic fingerprint sensor for next year on the 26 Ultra phones. Now, that's fine. I can't imagine how much better it's going to get versus the one we got now, but I mean, as you see in anything, things change year over year in terms of technology getting like almost, whatever, 40, 50% better. Sometimes it's double what the performance was of the last thing. So it's great to know that potentially we're gonna get a new fingerprint sensor in there that'll work even better than the one that already works really well in the 25 Ultra. Now, Galaxy Z Fold 7. This is going to be reportedly one of the toughest, if not the toughest, device that's a foldable on the market. The latest information is that the Z Fold 7 will be the toughest foldable smartphone in the market due to its new durable internal structure, new hinge, and with the all-new hinge dust protective brushes. So What does this mean besides it just meaning like, oh my, we're gonna get a really durable, powerful Galaxy Z Fold 7, but maybe it also means that we're gonna finally get dust resistance as well. Maybe, just maybe, that this thing will be water and dust resistant and give us like an IP68 rating. That would be absolutely amazing. I don't think there's any other foldable phone on the market today that is IP68. I could be wrong. I don't think I am though, which is awesome. And there's water resistance now, but we don't have dust resistance on these. So this might be the first one, and this might be one of the biggest selling points or reasons to upgrade, especially if you're a person that works in construction, or you're always going to the beach, or you're just in dusty environments. This might be a reason, again, why you'd want to get the Galaxy Z Fold 7, beyond that it has a huge display and a new processor and potentially faster charging, among other things as well. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Is dust resistance super important for you on your foldable or not? We'll see you guys down the road. Peace.